everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is O-Sheena. I wanted to do a video recommending some fantasy books that I like. I don't read a ton of fantasy, but there are certain ones that I really like, and I just wanted to have a video on my channel where I was recommending the fantasy books that I do like. I'm sure these are very well known. I don't think I've read any obscure fantasies, and yeah, some of them are like classics and whatever, but I'm just gonna give you my full list of all the fantasies that I like, that I own here, that I want to show. So, the first one that I think I ever read was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. This is a classic and I love it. It follows these four kids who find a secret world through this wardrobe, and it's all that they encounter. There's a witch, there's a lion, and it just was such a fun world to get immersed in, and I really like it. So yeah, the whole Chronicles of Narnia, I really like all the books. So this is the first one that I would recommend if you haven't read it yet. Next, the classic is Twilight. This is the next fantasy that I loved. This definitely got me into the whole vampire scene. So yeah, I loved these books when I was in high school. So definitely a favorite. But the next vampire series that I loved was the Vampire Academy series by Richelle Mead. This is 6 books long, and you follow this girl named Rose who is half vampire, half human, and she's going to school to learn how to protect the vampires in this world. And it just was so fun. You follow like the secret world of vampires, and then you see a bit of the human world too. And yeah, I mean, there's some great romance in it, there's friendship, there's like fight scenes, and some mystery too that was just really fun to read. So it was really good. And then of course I love the spin-off series called Bloodlines. This follows a vampire and then also like an alchemist. So yeah, she like works with magic and stuff. So that part wasn't my favorite of this, but the relationship was so good. And I think the plot was really good too. So yeah, that is the other like vampire kind of fantasy that I really like. Next, on to like fairy tale retellings. First would be Hunted by Meagan Spooner. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and you follow this girl who she's really poor and she's kind of like down on her luck, and she's exploring in the forest one day and she gets snatched by this beast. She's his prisoner and she has to like figure out what's going on. You also see a bit of her family back home and what they're doing. So overall, this was just a very immersive book. I really liked it. It's just a standalone, and it just is really well done, and it made me really like Beauty and the Beast retellings. So my other Beauty and the Beast retelling that lots of people know about is A Curse of the Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. This one was really fun to read. I really enjoyed it. And you follow this girl who is from our real world, but she gets snatched from it and taken into this like medieval world where the beast is, and he has to try to fall in love with her to break the curse. And it was just really fun. You just get to know these characters, and I came to really love them. It sounds like it's going to be a really fun series, so I'm excited to keep on going. This is the only book that I've read from it so far, but it's really promising, so I'm really excited to read the second book. And yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. It was fun. This fantasy is not set in our world at all, so it's a totally new like map to get to know, but there is a map in the book, so that's handy. But this is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This is the first book in the Remnant Chronicles, and you follow this princess who is running away from an arranged marriage. And you also follow the prince who is going to find her, and then also an assassin that was sent to kill her. So you get to see from all three of those perspectives, and it was just really enjoyable. You eventually are trying to figure out who's who and who she has like a better connection with. Is it the prince or the assassin? And it was really fun. And her character in particular was like, she was so strong in herself and she made really smart decisions, and I just really loved seeing her heart for her people too. And yeah, this was a great trilogy. Definitely really good. And yeah, there's a little bit of magic, but it's not like super big, but it's just like set in a totally different world. So another fantasy series that I really like is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. This first book got a lot of hate just because everyone's like, it's so tropey and it's so cliche, But I didn't find that at all, and as the series went on, it was like really unique and something that I've never read before. I'm not that well versed with fantasy, but I thought it was really good. In this world, there are 2 different kinds of blood that you can have. So you can have silver blood, which gives you powers, or just red blood, which means you're just a regular human. And what I liked is this author used the map of North America, but she renamed everything and remade all the borders. So it's land that you recognize, but none of the names are the same and the borders are completely different. So I just liked that twist on a fantasy world. And I loved this storyline. It gets so much bigger. Like, it's about like kingdoms kind of fighting over land, but it's also about the struggle between red blood and silver blood. I really liked the main character. Her name is Meyer. She just loved her people and she was a go-getter, and I loved it. I really enjoy this series. It definitely has high stakes and like it can get brutal at times. It's like definitely a war series in the end. Like, the last book is called War Storm. So yeah, but I just loved seeing all the different powers that they have and the 2 princes that are in her life. That was fun to read too. Yeah, it was really good. So another fantasy I really like. Okay, another fantasy that I totally love is The Wrath of the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is like 1001 Nights retelling. And so you follow this girl who volunteers to be the next queen because she wants to try to kill the prince. Technically he's a prince, I guess. And you just follow her life in the palace and getting to know the prince, and that there's a lot more going on. There is like a magical spell put over the land, and so he has to kill his wife every morning. But she manages to survive because she tells him stories, and it was really well done. I loved seeing the progression of these characters and their relationship, and I really liked the writing. I like Renee Ahdieh's writing. It's very like descriptive and metaphorical, but to me it wasn't over the top and it just like suited the story. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this. I haven't read it in so long. I have a bookmark in it because I want to read it again. Hopefully this year is the plan, but yeah, I totally loved this when I first read it. Okay, this one is a little bit more obscure. It's called Long May She Reign by Rhiannon Thomas. This is a standalone fantasy and it's very light. To me, I don't even remember if there's any magic in it, but it's in a totally new world, and you follow this kingdom where every royal person that exists is at this party and they all get poisoned and killed, and so there's like no heir to the throne except this random girl who's like 27th in line, and so she's the new queen of this whole kingdom, and she like had no idea, like she was not getting trained for this. She's like, you know, she never expected to see the throne. So it's her dealing with taking over the kingdom and then figuring out who killed all the people, like who poisoned everyone. And it was just a really fun little mystery, and she was such a great character. She was not like a pushover. She fought for herself and she made really smart decisions, and it was fun trying to figure out who was the poisoner. This is a really good one. If you want to like get into fantasy, I think it would be a good one to start with. I have recommended this to a couple people who have asked, so it's a good one, and it's a standalone, so it's just like an easy little fantasy story. Okay, and lastly, I can't not mention Harry Potter. So this is, what, book 6, The Half-Blood Prince. I didn't read Harry Potter until I was in grade 12, so I was a bit older, but I loved it, so that is great. And since then, I've read the series through twice, so I wouldn't say I'm like the biggest Harry Potter fan ever, but I definitely would say that I'm a fan. So yeah, and this is fantasy that I really like. It's just easy to read. It's set in our world, and it's set in London, and you just follow these wizards and witches that have magical powers with their wands, and they're going to school, and it's fun. So yeah, that is another fantasy that I like. So those are all of the fantasy books that I'm gonna share. I kind of went through my whole Goodreads and looked at every fantasy book I've ever read, and these are the ones that I liked. So yeah, it's not anything amazing, a lot of paranormal in there, but those are the kind of fantasies that I like, honestly. So yeah, I definitely want to branch out eventually and read more fantasy books, but they're just not a huge priority for me. So anyways, I did want to have a video where I showed fantasy books that I do recommend and that I like. So hopefully you guys got some recommendations from that, and thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye! To